Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 8 finale video. I'm sure you've watched it like 7 or 8 times by now. There were so many big reveals, so many big twists, and so many big teasers for the future of the Star Wars universe through The Mandalorian and all the other spin-off series on Disney+. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I will be doing episode videos for everything that's coming up, and I'll do some Mandalorian Season 3 videos this weekend as well, once we get through everything else. There is so much stuff to talk about. We're doing a giveaway for Disney Plus memberships. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just leave your favorite WTF reveal or big twist from the episode on the video. Really big spoiler warning if you have not seen the episode yet. I'm going to number these a little bit differently as we go along through the episode and talk about Easter eggs, just because it's way more to talk about than a normal top 10 video. The title of the episode was Chapter 16, The Rescue. So really important to the future of the Mandalorian series, the chapter idea, the idea that these are books of story collections that are broken up into chapters. I'll talk about that when we eventually get to the post-credit scene. Don't worry, we'll get to that, but the title refers to Mando trying to rescue Grogu, and then obviously a certain Jedi showing up at the end to rescue them all from the Dark Troopers. I'll wait till we get about 2 minutes deep into the video before I actually say his name, because a lot of people skip over the spoiler warning and don't realize that I gave it. The episode was directed by Peyton Reed from all the Marvel movies. He's directed all the Ant-Man movies. He's also directing the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, Quantumania. He also directed Season 2, Episode 2, the Frog Lady episode. The intro theme song was a little bit different. There were a couple variations on the Mandalorian theme throughout the episode. But we should also say at the top of the video here that Jeremy Bulloch, the original Boba Fett actor, passed away the day before the episode was released. The cast and crew were paying their respects on Twitter this morning, so if you saw people posting about Boba Fett and Jeremy Bulloch, that's why. But the episode begins with the Slave One, Boba Fett, chasing down Dr. Pershing's ship, who's flying a Lambda-class shuttle from Return of the Jedi. The Slave One dogfight is very reminiscent of Jango Fett's dogfight with Obi-Wan Kenobi back during Attack of the Clones when they were chasing each other on the way to Geonosis. Boba Fett takes them out with an ion cannon, which are used for disabling craft, not destroying them. I actually learned that deep cut from playing the Star Wars TIE Fighter video game, the DOS version of the video game, way back in the day. It stops them dead in their tracks. The two Imperial pilots here you might recognize from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They weren't really big characters on that show, but that's where they came from before this. Boba Fett docks the ship, Mando boards with Cara Dune, and Dr. Pershing confirms Grogu's location and he's alive. Love the way they play this. Loyalty apparently doesn't mean much in this new empire, as Pilot 1 just immediately turns on them. I'm not with them, let's make a deal, and his co-pilot shoots him dead in his tracks without hesitation. Dropping this many bodies this early in the episode is just to let you know what the stakes are and that there are going to be a lot more bodies being dropped. You kind of expect this, it's a finale, it's meant to be a really big episode, and it was. The other pilot turns on Dr. Pershing, taking him hostage to save his own life, not to protect any Imperial secrets. He also confirms that he's a clone engineer by trade, but we knew that he worked in cloning because of the Episode 4 reveal earlier this season, and we saw the Camino badge on his uniform way back in Season 1. Funny enough, they didn't completely reveal what the cloning plot was with Grogu's blood. That's obviously going to be dealt with in future seasons. There were a lot of things that they set up for some of the spin-off series during the episode as well, so I'll talk about those when we get to those parts of the episode. Remember, there are 2 official spin-offs of The Mandalorian that they announced, the Ahsoka series and the Rangers of the New Republic. Pilot number 2 proceeds to antagonize Cara Dune, noticing her teardrop tattoo, marking her as a survivor of Alderaan, and starts talking about how he enjoyed watching it get blown up because he was on the first Death Star during the events of A New Hope, and proceeds to go full space Karen on her. Do you know how many people you rebels killed on those Death Stars that you blew up? They also make all the usual Death Star jokes. Which Death Star were you on? There are technically 3 now. So I love the fact that Star Wars characters now canonically make fun of the fact that the Empire lacks a lot of ingenuity just reusing their old ideas. Hey, let's make another Death Star. She picks him up with a blaster shot, and then they fly with Dr. Pershing to a new planet that we haven't been to before this season. It's hard to tell, but it looks like there's a bunch of refineries mining some kind of resources. We see Bo-Katan's Mandalorian ship. It looks fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if they're selling a new version of that toy that's way more expensive. Boba Fett and Mando walk into the bar. Make all the jokes you want. Stop me if you've heard this one. 2 Mandalorians walk into a space bar. Even though technically they make a bunch of references to Boba Fett not being a Mandalorian. I'll get into that too because I think it has a lot to do with the end of the episode in the post-credit scene. But they find Bo-Katan and Costco Reeves just drinking it up, chilling out. Everyone in the bar just kind of craps their pants at the sight of all these Mandalorians converging on each other. But I love the way he and Boba Fett move in synchronicity, like they sort of move in formation. It's very militaristic, but that's part of the Mandalorian culture. That's just the way they're raised. They really get into it over the idea of higher callings and what makes a real Mandalorian. Like Bo-Katan says, you're just common bounty hunters. I'm not really interested in helping you with that. But then he reveals that he's actually trying to save Grogu and that he knows where Moff Gideon is, and that really gets her interest. They do this funny thing through the episode where they sort of get into this knockdown, drag-out fight between Boba Fett and Costco Reeves, which is really cool. It's really fun to see them go at it. Even Bo-Katan is like, if we would have fought like that a couple years ago, we wouldn't have lost to the Empire. But they do this weird thing where they wait to reveal critical information until after they've fought just a little bit. Like, oh, it's Grogu that you want to save. Okay, maybe we'll help. Oh, you want to get Moff Gideon. Oh, you know where he is. Oh, and by the way, it's really the Darksaber that I'm after in that ship. They also lay some seeds for the future of Din Djarin's Mando character when he says, I'll do whatever you want, just help me save the kid. The terms of the deal that he makes with her is that he'll help her get the Darksaber back and retake Mandalore and give her the light cruiser. So if you're confused after the episode about what's going on with Mando's character in future seasons, his whole quest was to take Grogu to the Jedi, which he did that. Now his new quest is Bo-Katan's quest to take back Mandalore. Here's the thing about all the Boba Fett stuff during the episode. They have this big argument. She throws all this shade at Boba Fett, telling him he's no Mandalorian. He doesn't dispute her claim either. He says, I never said that I was. He only tells them and told Mando back in episode 6 that the armor is his by rights because it belonged to his father, who was a Mandalorian at one time. So is he or is he not a Mandalorian? You could argue it either way. The way she's talking about it, like the idea of being a true Mandalorian, is more about taking the oath that Mando took as a child with the Watch, serving this idea of a higher calling that she's talking to Mando about during the episode. And Boba Fett doesn't really care about that. He doesn't care about being a Mandalorian. He just cared about getting the armor back. They made up a whole bunch of new slang terms for the episode too. When he says a quackta calling a stifling slimy, those are not official Star Wars terms. They just wrote those for the episode. But obviously you understand what they're saying to each other without knowing what they're saying. Boba Fett also referenced that the Empire turned Mandalore the planet into a pile of glass, meaning that they bombarded it from orbit with their Star Destroyers till everything on the surface, even the rocks, got melted down into glass with the plasma energy weapons. We're not anywhere close to the planet by the end of the episode, so obviously that's something that they're going to cover in future seasons. She also reminds Mando that the Darksaber can't cut through pure Beskar, just to hype up the fight with the Beskar spear. There are a couple moments through the episode that want to foreshadow that, just to remind you, oh yeah, this is a thing that we're going to pay off really soon. Dr. Pershing explains more about the Dark Troopers. He says that they have gone full droid, so obviously these are from the Dark Forces video game, but he explains them as being the Phase 3 Dark Troopers. They got rid of the last remaining weakness, the human, inside them. But their weakness now, though, is their battery life. Turns out they eat through batteries like nobody's business, so they have to keep them in sleep mode most of the time when they're not in the middle of a battle. There's a really big scene of Bo-Katan forming the battle plan. This is actually a good teaser for future seasons in the bigger battles they will eventually have when they get to Grand Admiral Thrawn, showing you how she's used to being a leader. This is obviously all just big callbacks to the Clone Wars. She's been doing this for a long time. Cara Dune explains to Bo-Katan and us, the audience, why she needs Moff Gideon alive, for future seasons as well, to bring him back on the show, but also because he's Imperial Security Bureau and he has all these Imperial secrets and information that she needs, the New Republic needs. That's probably set up for the plot that they'll cover on the Rangers of the New Republic spin-off series. So like I said, they laid a lot of track work for the spin-off shows during this episode. As they get ready to exit hyperspace, Boba Fett makes a reference to Bo-Katan that reminded me of the Holy Trinity. So you have a princess, like Boba Fett says, take it easy, princess. Then you have the scoundrel, the Han Solo of the group, which would be Mando, and you have the Jedi, which would be Grogu. They try to trick Moff Gideon into letting the Lambda-class shuttle make an emergency landing so he won't go through the process of scanning them and finding out who's on board. It barely works. Boba Fett manages to escape, obviously comes back at the end of the episode in the post-credit scene. But if you've been a big fan of Katie Sackhoff's for a long time, she actually had almost the exact same type of scene landing a ship the same way during Battlestar. The whole plan is that they'll go out first, clear the deck, and make their way to Moff Gideon so she can get the Darksaber, and while that's happening, they create all this chaos. Mando comes after them, slips in to sneak Grogu out. Moff Gideon kind of smiles, kind of understanding exactly what's happening the minute they hit the deck, and activates the Dark Troopers. They even get their own dubstep-sounding theme music. They use the design of the ship creatively to give you some really cool Mandalorian fights, like, okay, we have some jetpacks, let's use these to our advantage. Love watching the Stormtrooper fall out the shield, too, into the vacuum of space. That's also a way to let you know that that exists there, so that when the Dark Troopers come back, it makes sense when they just fly right through the shield. Mando passes an RA-7 protocol droid from A New Hope on his way down the hallway. Mando almost manages to close that door to get the Dark Troopers out, but one makes it through, starts punching the crap out of him, and you start having PTSD flashbacks to the Game of Thrones Oberyn Martell vs. the Mountain fight, with him getting his face smashed in by the Mountain. Good thing he wore a helmet this time. It doesn't look like it got dented either. Trusty flamethrower won't do the trick, but the Beskar spear proves pretty effective at taking them down. He manages to temporarily disable the rest of them too by venting them out into space, just like they did back during Episode 3, venting all the Imperials out into space. They blast their way to the bridge, disabling the cruiser's weapon systems, but Moff Gideon obviously has made his way to Grogu's cell and is waiting for Mando with the Darksaber held above his head. Giancarlo Esposito does a really great job with his classic evil guy monologue. He references taking the Darksaber from Bo-Katan and the fact that he knows everything. He knows the intricate details and the inner workings of Mando's armor and his weaponry, too. Probably, they haven't revealed this yet, but probably because someone close to Mando is secretly working for the Empire. You notice that Moff Gideon makes him drop the blaster, but not the spear because he doesn't know that it's Beskar. It also seems like he doesn't realize that his armor is pure Beskar and the Darksaber won't cut it. He double-crosses Mando immediately after making that bargain with him, and he must have hit Mando with at least 20 strikes of the Darksaber, and it doesn't even leave a mark on his Beskar. They also did a good job during this of foreshadowing the eventual conflict between Mando and Bo-Katan over the Darksaber, the whole mythology behind it, and how you have to win it, you can't just take it from someone. He says that he got everything he needed from Grogu. I just wanted to study his blood because in him is the potential to bring order to the galaxy. So obviously we know that he was studying his midichlorians. They kind of hint at the idea of trying to combine Grogu's DNA with regular people and it resulting in really deformed clones. Obviously people thinking about Palpatine's clones and the Snoke clones from Rise of Skywalker. That's obviously a much bigger story that they'll tell in future seasons in the spin-off series. I was hoping to get some more answers about that, but the funny thing is that Giancarlo Esposito did an interview before the season started saying that we wouldn't get real answers, real big answers, till Season 3 or Season 4 of The Mandalorian. So that is why there are so many unresolved plot threads by the end of the episode. I love Katie Sackhoff's performance as Bo-Katan in this last part of the episode too. That devilish smile on her face as she's kind of lording over the bridge, and the immediate turn on her face as she sees Mando rolling in, wielding the Darksaber. Like, this should be a really cool thing, and he's got Grogu in one hand, the Darksaber in the other. Look at how badass this is. I think this is something everybody wanted to see at some point. I didn't expect to see it so soon, but she can't stand it. And then Moff Gideon sort of explains the mythology of the Darksaber in greater detail. Oh no, you can't just give it to her. You have to win it in battle. It's kind of like a Harry Potter Elder Wand situation. But then he clarifies there's no actual magic in the Darksaber. The magic is all about the story of you winning the Darksaber. Otherwise, people will view you as a pretender to the throne. So to make another Game of Thrones reference, Mando is kind of like the Jon Snow of this situation. Technically, he has a stronger claim to the throne of Mandalore, the Beskar Iron Throne of Mandalore, than Bo-Katan, and she is pissed about it. They do not address it at all by the end of the episode, so obviously that's going to be something that they'll deal with in future seasons. They have to have it out over that. Before they can deal with that, though, the Dark Troopers make it back on board, and Moff Gideon looks even more pleased with himself. I also love the way as he's sitting there, he sort of flips his cape to hide the blaster. Turns out space capes are stylish and useful. But then as the Dark Troopers start laying siege to the bridge doors, Luke Skywalker's X-Wing arrives to save them with R2-D2. You can see that once he gets close enough, Grogu can sense him through the Force and starts communicating with him telepathically, letting Luke know what's happening on board. So while this is all going on, Grogu is kind of giving Luke the play-by-play. He's sort of like the sports commentator for the episode. There's some great reaction shots, especially from Moff Gideon, who looks like he craps his pants when he hears the Dark Troopers shut down and then turn around and get ready for Luke. The reason they probably did that is because they have proximity sensors that can sense the greatest threat, and they sensed Luke was a much greater threat than the people on the bridge. Even though they waited a little while to reveal his face and unfurl the hood, I feel like you see the green lightsaber with the black glove hand, you know exactly who that is. Most of the fight moves that he's using taking out all these dark troopers are pretty basic Jedi abilities. He's fairly powerful at this point, but I feel like when you talk about really badass Jedi fights the last year or so, Ahsoka's fight scenes that she had during episode 5 were actually technically more impressive. The really cool thing about this hallway run too is that it's actually a cool parallel for Darth Vader in Rogue One in his scene. So like father, like son, Papa bless. He even ends the fight like Darth Vader did in Rogue One, crushing the last one. That was probably one of my favorite takedowns in the episode. He's dressed in the same clothes from Return of the Jedi, and they did the same thing that they did with Carrie Fisher in Rogue One, using a stand-in, then just swapping his face using some special effects. They've gotten better with it, but it still looked kind of weird, and I feel like Sebastian Stan probably would have been better. Like, he looks enough like Luke, but I understand why they didn't want to recast. They still wanted it to be the Mark Hamill version of Luke, and Mark Hamill himself was credited in the episode, meaning he was actually doing all the lines of dialogue for Luke, so it was him speaking as Luke, and they just made his face look really young. When this scene is happening, he's in his late 20s, so he's still very, very young. As he walks in, though, they start playing the Twin Sons theme song from A New Hope, which is kind of Luke's theme song as well. He tells Mando that he would die to protect that smile, but until Grogu becomes a full Jedi Knight, he won't be safe. They have one of the saddest goodbyes in the episode. Grogu kind of motions to his face, he takes the helmet off again, and tough guy Mando is crying his eyes out, Papa bless. As they say their goodbyes, R2-D2 wheels in and they have this funny meeting with him and Grogu. R2-D2 is probably meeting him again for the first time because remember, R2 never had his memory wiped. He was the only one that was around for all of Anakin Skywalker's childhood up through the prequels. He remembers everything, so he would have been at the Jedi Temple a lot during the prequel era, so he probably remembers Grogu from that period. But then Luke leaves with Grogu to go train him as a Jedi, and Mando, still without his helmet, just watches them go. Remember, now I said he agreed to join Bo-Katan as part of their deal and retake Mandalore, so his new quest now that he's delivered Grogu to his people, to the Jedi, is Bo-Katan's quest to retake Mandalore. But then the post-credit scene reveals Boba Fett and Fennec Shand at some point later, maybe a small time jump, going back to Jabba's palace on Tatooine, killing what looks like a much older, fatter version of Bib Fortuna from Return of the Jedi. There are also a lot of other people from Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi that looks like they survived the events of that movie and have just remained here as part of Bib Fortuna's court. So it seems like after Jabba died, he just took over his crime syndicate and then got super thick, like Jabba. The reason he's speaking in Huttese, though, is because that's the really common language of the underworld of the Star Wars universe in the crime syndicates. It's very common, but they also slip in a McClunky, which most of you will remember from last year when they released Disney Plus for the first time and they aired a version of New Hope with the infamous McClunky.
I bet you have. McClunky.
I don't know if they included that as a joke. Hopefully they don't try to make McClunky a thing in the Star Wars universe. Really cool behind the scenes detail though, the actor that was playing Bib Fortuna also played General Grievous during Revenge of the Sith, and he's done hundreds of voiceover roles in the Star Wars movies and TV series. Then as Boba Fett kills him, he sits down on Jabba's throne, which you'll notice is adorned with the metal replicas of the Rancor. Press F in the chat for the Rancor. Just letting you know that he's now taking over Jabba's crime syndicate. It's sort of the same parallel for Mando taking the Darksaber and now technically having a claim to the throne of Mandalore. But then you get the title reveal, The Book of Boba Fett, releasing December 2021. There has been so much confusion on social media in the past hour since I'm making this video and the episode aired. People are wondering now if The Mandalorian Season 3 is just going to follow Boba Fett and Mando will just be a side character during that, maybe appearing in a couple of cameo scenes. There have been rumors about a Boba Fett spin-off miniseries earlier, but at the Disney Investor Meeting Star Wars panel, they said that the next chapter, The Mandalorian Season 3, would be released Christmas 2021. So because they do these chapters of The Mandalorian, it could just be that the next story arc of the Mandalorian series follows mostly Boba Fett's character, and the other characters like Mando, Bo-Katan, the other Mandalorians are just side characters during that. I think part of the reason for doing this and for sending Grogu off with Luke Skywalker is so that he can come back maybe either a season later or a long time later, and he will be more like Luke Skywalker at the beginning of Return of the Jedi. Remember what Luke was like at the end of Empire Strikes Back. He had some abilities in the Force, but he was very untrained, he lost his hand, but then he showed up at the beginning of Return of the Jedi after a small time jump, seeming like he was way more powerful. So I think it'll be the same for Grogu when he comes back. But the way Pedro Pascal talks about it, he said that he expects to cross over to all the Mandalorian spin-off series. So he'll be in the Mandalorian Season 3 probably. He'll also probably be in the Ahsoka series, which will take place during the same time period, and the Rangers of the New Republic series. But they will be filming the Ahsoka series and the Rangers of the New Republic series next year too. Those won't be released till 2022. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series and the Rogue One prequel series, Star Wars Andor, will also be released sometime during 2022. I'm not expecting a ton more Luke Skywalker scenes just because it's really expensive for them to do that, and it didn't look really perfect. There was a lot of uncanny valley going on when it got too close to his face. So that's why I say there'll probably be a couple of time jumps with Grogu's story so that he just comes back after a while and he's way more powerful. Hopefully there's at least one scene that mirrors the Yoda training scene with Yoda riding on his back and then you have Grogu riding on Luke's back. What'll happen is my next video will probably just be a pure post-credit scene video talking about Boba Fett and what his storyline is going to be during the Book of Boba Fett episodes. Then I'll start doing some more full Mandalorian Season 3 videos about all the storylines, like the Bo-Katan Mando stuff that's happening with the Darksaber. That's a huge deal. There's also a Mandalorian bonus episode with a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff that'll be dropping next week. I'll also do an episode video for that as well. But there's so much stuff to talk about, so if there's any big Easter eggs that you spotted in the episode that I didn't reference in the video, just write them below in the comments. I'm really happy with what they did this season. I feel like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are the future of the Star Wars universe, and the future of Star Wars is in all these Star Wars series on Disney+, not so much the movies as you would normally expect. Everyone click here for that new Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi teaser trailer video, and click here for all my Mandalorian episode videos. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. This is the way.